Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. No copyright infringement intended. All rights belong to their respective owners. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act 1976, allowance is made for fair use for purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Nonprofit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use. No copyright infringement intended.
This is War Cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is War Cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up! Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. drugs, rape, mass shootings, school violence. This is War Cry, galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in school. This is War Cry, cameras, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is War Cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is War Cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is War Cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is War Cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is War Cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is War Cry. HBCUs under attack. This is War Cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is War Cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is War Cry. Oh, let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches. Pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is War Cry, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is War Cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is War Cry.
I know who goes before me. I know who stays behind. The God of Israel's army is always by my side.
Good morning, good morning. This is War Cry. Yes. And you've tuned in, family, to another exciting show about what's going on in the urban communities. Now, I know there's a lot of things going on. You've been looking at Facebook, Twitter, X. You've been looking at all these things, and you see that the world is like a roller coaster. It's going upside down and all around, from the church to the comedians, from the comedians to the music world, from the music world to social media to the wars. We've got so much going on. 2024, the elections, but let us stay focused that this is War Cry. And someone's got to consider the children. With everything going on, all this adult talk, no one is focusing on the children. Now, I know that people can say, well, this may not be the popular thing to do, but guess what? This is the Christ thing to do. Someone's got to be on the banner, on the wall for our children. This is War Cry for our children. Simply put, they're dying. It's not going to be another generation. I don't even have to worry about it. It appears that you guys are killing out each other. You got the Republicans, you got the Democrats, you got the lame, you got the donkey, you got the elephant. I'm not on the elephant party. I'm not on the donkey party. There is a party I'm on. I'm following the Lamb. And that's the Lamb of God. This is War Cry. So we are here on this wall again. We want you to go to our website. We want you to pray for our children. We want you to send the names in. As you can see, we have a prayer wall, and we're fighting this battle for our kids and things that affect our kids that we need to talk about. Remember, the news is made in the urban areas. And that's what we're doing. We're making the news. We're putting our children and making them relevant again. This is War Cry. We're going to have an engineer put up. I had a flyer that I want to put up about there's a big march going on tomorrow. We're going to Albany. It says that, guess what? We live in communities, not cages. Hello, somebody. We live in communities, not cages. So I'm with this group that's saying hashtag we live in communities, not cages. It's going to be a big march tomorrow. We're going to Washington. Not even, well, we will be going to Washington soon, but we're going to Albany tomorrow. So I want you to stay tuned because we're going to have another dynamic show after we take over Albany and let the governor know we need our communities back. You can't just throw anything in our communities and expect for us to settle for it. We're going to be the voice. War Cry is the voice that cries out in the wilderness. This is War Cry. This is War Cry. This is War Cry, and we need your support. Hey, you've made everybody else famous. Black people always make everybody else rich, but it's time for you to invest in some operations in the urban areas because this is War Cry. Let's bring our host on. Let's bring our host on. I am so excited about today's show. Dr. Taylor, I could not wait. Oh my goodness. I could not wait for you to come on. For Dr. Gorday, for this is my other co-host. Come on, Minister T, raise your hand. Raise your hand. And we on War Cry. You know, we had some technical difficulties, but guess what? We moved past that, right, Dr. Gorday? We want them to come. We're ready for the fight, Dr. Taylor. We're ready for the fight. Now, before I even introduce you, we're going to have a video that I want our engineer to put up because we are excited.
You've probably heard this many times before. The US locks people up at a higher rate than any other country in the world. But did you know that more than half of those behind bars are parents to minors? In other words, more than 5 million children in the US have had a parent who cared for them go to jail or prison. And these kids can carry significant scars with them into adulthood.
Children serve time too. You know, so when their parents are incarcerated, the parents aren't the only one who are feeling that effect. It is a ripple effect. Their families, their kids are feeling that, and not only in the time that they're incarcerated, but for generations.
Dr. Nia Hurd-Gerritz just published a study describing what these scars may look like. She and her colleagues analyzed national survey data from over 13,000 young adults. 10% had a parent incarcerated during their childhood, and compared to their peers, they grew up more likely to forego necessary medical care, use drugs, and engage in risky sexual behaviors.
So if you go from having a mother and a father to working to just one, then all of a sudden you've got a financial strain, and that could plummet a family into poverty. And poverty in and of itself can be a huge barrier to seeking health care and to maintaining good health long term.
So it's not just that they're being raised by a single parent, it's that one of the parents is behind bars. Does that make the context even worse for these children?
I do think it's different depending on why the parent was separated from the child. If they were divorced versus they were incarcerated, there's a lot of stigma and shame around incarceration. So that may lead parents not willing to open up and say, my husband was incarcerated, my boyfriend was incarcerated, my father was incarcerated, to really seek the support they need.
The study found young adults whose fathers had been incarcerated while they were minors were more likely to use hard drugs and watch more than 50 hours of TV a week than young adults whose parents hadn't been incarcerated. Those whose mothers had been incarcerated were more likely to have sex in exchange for money, skip doctor visits, and use the emergency department as their usual source of health care.
I definitely was surprised. One of my main thoughts was that if a mom was incarcerated, that would somehow be worse than having a father incarcerated. That was just my general bias.
Previous research found that young adults with a history of parental incarceration have higher rates of depression, PTSD, asthma, and HIV. Hurd-Gerritz hopes that by revealing the more specific unhealthy behaviors that these individuals demonstrate later in life, her study can help mitigate them as early as possible.
How do you think you and your colleagues should treat these young people that come to you once you know that they have had a parent? that's been incarcerated?
Many of us are probably not asking because we don't know how, we don't know that it's important. So I think even before that, we should identify. We should ask, hey, where's mom today or dad today if we don't know? Trying to normalize it, because unfortunately, a lot of people are dealing with incarceration in their family. Maybe we can be the facilitators of groups to start support groups or networks within.
All right, engineer, let's go back to the panel.
I have
Let's
to
go
also
back to the panel. Let's go to the panel. I'm going to have to ask the two other co-hosts if you could just mute your phones, because we hear things in the background. So just mute until you get ready to speak. This is War Cry, and we are excited about today. We're just going to start and just have everybody just say good morning. Dr. Gorday, Eric Gorday, do you want to start us up with good morning?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Thank you very much for tuning in to this wonderful station and with our wonderful elder Valerie Montgomery. I am a licensed clinical social worker. I am working with fathers and fathers forward, and I'm focusing on fathers and sons. And I know that we need to help our Black boys. I consider the new endangered species. Thank you.
All right. Okay, Minister Trevor, you want to say good morning?
Yes, good morning. Good morning. So glad to be back here today. But I just wanted to say, by working in the educational system for, I don't know, almost maybe 30 years, and being administrators, I know how critically important it is for our children to get a well-rounded education, but they cannot get a well-rounded education if there's dysfunctionality in the home and the child is hurting and they feel that they have no one to talk to, or the people that they're talking to perhaps may be in the same situation that they're in. So they cannot help each other with the struggle of understanding how to get out of the situation. But I'm on the wall for our children. I'm praying for our children because they are our future. They are our inheritance, and we have to pull them out of the fire.
Amen, amen, and amen. Yes, because a lot of times we leave the children behind, Dr. Taylor. The children are left behind, and they're left to go in various living environments. Some of them so critical foster care. The brothers and sisters are divided, and a lot of times they don't see their parents. So I am so glad to have you on our program. I mean, it was amazing to me that you work for our children, and introduce yourself and just tell us amazingly about our children. Go ahead, Dr. Alethea.
Hi, good morning. Thank you so much for having me on, all of you. I'm very excited myself to be here. We're an organization named for our children, HOUR, actually. And the hour stands for the hour of the child's visit to the mother, the hour of the woman's arrest, I should say, the hour of the visit of the child to mom, and the hour of the reunification. Our mission is to connect children with their mothers who are incarcerated or formerly incarcerated. Our goal is to make sure that while that parent is incarcerated, the mothers who we primarily work with, that we will ensure that that child bond with mom continues. And so, one of the things that sometimes we don't maybe realize how much those hours that are taken away from the family are so important. And so that's why this organization was named for HOUR, so that we can highlight the hours and how important they are to ensure that we instill that family bond and that connection remains.
Now, before we go on, I just want to say when we met, we were like, oh my God, our children and HOUR. And I was amazed with that. I'm just amazed with that whole way that you guys are looking at things, because the hour that our children are separated from their parents, that pain. The hour that they pulled away, the minute that they know that their mother or father won't be back, that's a tragedy, a trauma that sometimes stays with them for the rest of their lives. For the rest
Absolutely.
of their life. Speak to that a little bit. I know you're advocating to get parents and children connected again, but now do you also, in your advocating, do you also have the children immediately go to therapy? I see we got another host on. Hey, Pastor Cherry, how you doing?
Praise for God bless each and everybody. I'm fine, thank you.
Yes, yes. I thank you for joining us. Now we're talking to Dr. Alethea Taylor. She's telling us about children and her organization and how they feel about how the children feel and how they try to bring them together. But before we go on, just introduce yourself and what church you go to. Say good morning to the audience.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. God bless y'all. My
Good
name
morning.
is Tyrone Cherry. I'm from God's Glory Ministry out in Queens.
Amen. Amen. And we're talking about children that are incarcerated or have had parents incarcerated. Now, before we go on, does anyone here know of anyone that has had a child of that the parent has been incarcerated? Does anyone know of anyone? Okay, Dr. Gaudet, tell us a little bit.
Well, I don't want to call any names, but I am working with Fathers Forward Incorporated. One of our wonderful consultants was in prison for 24 years, and he has 5 children. And what
Mm.
we are trying to do is to work with him and those children, but he has tremendous resources. Now, he has his own group, and most people would frown upon his group. Most of them have been in prison as well. But these are the people that should be our leaders to talk about what happens in those prisons, how to transfer out of those prisons and become active in the community and run for office like Yusef Salam did. This is what's going on today. And this is what
Okay,
I know.
Pastor Cherry, do you know of anyone? Would you like to speak to this?
Yes, I'm just trying to get my camera together for a minute. I had a hard
Okay.
time on. Y'all have to excuse me. God bless y'all. Okay, I can speak. I was going to speak about me myself. Um, I had my son. My son. He just got home from prison a few months ago. Say about 3 months he'd been home. And he been in prison since he was 16 years old. He came out and then they gave him another sentence for 25 years. He just served 20, 21 years, I believe, and he's home. And through it been a very 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 hard struggle. It's a lot of things he's still trying to work on and prove, even though he's out and he's home. His innocence of we still try. He's still trying to prove that, but he has it's like a psychological thing, also, because it's in their mind, in their mental, that what they have experienced, what they have seen, what they had to go through for years, for years, or 21 years, you know.
Now
Um,
let me interrupt you, my brother. Does he have any kids?
yes, yes.
How was the relationship with the kids?
Well, the relationship with the kids, like he has a son and a daughter, and uh, his son and his daughter, he really didn't have a chance to know them or to meet them. He didn't have a chance to really know them or meet them because they was like born after he was incarcerated. He had two young ladies was conceiving at the time that he was incarcerated, and we tried to stay in touch with them at the family, but it was hard for them, and it was hard for them and difficult for them, even with his sons, especially because now he's grown and he grown up, and he looks at him like, like, well, you never was there. All I know was my mother. My mother was there, and he came home and he's trying to fit in and with them, but he's being disrespected, and and he feel a certain way because he's looking at like it wasn't like by choice that he had to be in prison and stuff like that. It's just that what took place. He was there, and and he was trying to
Yes.
keep his children into his life,
And,
but it was because of the parents and stuff, the mothers. So it's
and
very
that's
difficult.
why it's so good. Yes, and that's why it's so great that we have organizations like Dr. Taylor's Our Children that can actually interface. Now, let me just say, so what made you get into this work first, Dr. Taylor? What made you get into this work?
This work found me. I was in college and decided not to go to medical school, and found a program that was able to pay for my master's degree. And I happened to do an internship in an organization called Greenhope Services for Women, where we centered the needs of women who were formerly incarcerated and on parole. And in that role, I was I was a vocational rehabilitation counselor, and my role was primarily to help women get back to work. And in that opportunity, I was able to work with children, and I did that for about 20 something years, working with children and their mothers in order to ensure that the family bond continued. But we worked with their substance use issues, their mental health issues, making sure that they connected with their family members, whether it was parents, grandparents, and also the children. And I saw the really grave needs of people who are formerly incarcerated, and how, especially this was around 94, and in the later 90s, where stigma, even though it still continues, was even greater for people who were coming out of prison and could not find employment and could not get their lives together. And I fell into it, let's say. But a part of me does think, not a part of me, I think it was ordained that I went to that organization, because now this is my life's work, and my life's purpose is to work with women and children, women who are formerly incarcerated. And I eventually became the executive director of that organization, Greenhope Services for Women, and moved on to do other things. And now I'm the executive director of this one. So I also, my dad was also incarcerated along with my brother. And my brother was incarcerated for 19 years. And of those 19 years, I went back and forth. Well, I should say 17, because I was in college for 2 and couldn't do it. But I went back and forth 10 months out of the year, really making sure that the family bond continued. I was the only one that drove. And so I would have to drive my mother, siblings. I'm West Indian. So when they came in from Jamaica, I would bring them, grandparents, whoever, to see him. And so we did that for many, many years. So I understand intrinsically and personally what it means, and not to really be connected to a family member while they're incarcerated, and how important it is that not only for moms and to do the work, but aunts and uncles and grandparents, how can you be a support? And so that was a role that I play, and that's the role that Our Children is playing now for family members who can't often get the kids to their mothers.
Now, let me ask you another question. How does your operation operate? A parent goes in. So explain to me, a mother, do you work with the DA's office? Do you get referrals? How do you work? How do you get your clientele or your population?
Sure. So Our Children has several layers. And so we have some offices in Long Island City, but we also operate inside the prison. We have a contract through the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision, DOCS, where we provide services to women who are incarcerated in Bedford Hills and Taconic. And we also have a contract with the Mayor's Office of Criminal Justice to provide services to women on Rikers Island. So we actually do visiting programs on Rikers Island, along with in Bedford Hills and Taconic. What does that mean? It means that there are parenting centers in Bedford Hills and Taconic. We operate those. And so the women are as a captive audience. because they're inside the prison. And so what happens is, we have people who are incarcerated that are actually our staff members as well. So we have an office, and about 4 incarcerated women work for us along with regular civilian staff. And we are in the prisons, and we talk to the women as they come in about who we are, what are the services that we're providing in the prisons, and how we can help them. One of the primary service is teaching parenting from behind. What does that mean? That means that people often forget that you're still a parent. Just because you got incarcerated doesn't mean that you don't stop caring about homework, kids going to prom, kids having bad behavior. So what we do is we help them navigate those systems. So for example, we teach them how to do homework while they're on the phone, and ask Johnny about how his day has been, what are some issues that's happening, how to negotiate that relationship between the caregiver that's taking care of your child and you. And if you dislike some of the things that the caregiver is doing, how do you have that conversation? And do you have that over the phone, or do you wait till the child comes and sees you? So those kind of little nuances, things like, I'm going to the prom, mom. And you talk to the child about, what are you going to wear? What is it going to look like? Can you send me pictures in the mail? I would love to see it. Do you have a girlfriend or boyfriend? So all these nuances that we take for granted, we absolutely do as well. So imagine, as a parent, it's difficult already to sit down and do homework with an 8-year-old where they're antsy and can't get it together. But you're doing this as a parent on the phone while you're incarcerated. And we're teaching you the type of questions to ask. The other thing that we do that's so important is we make sure that the child visits mom. So we have a program that we have we have host parents, people that live in Westchester County. And what happens is that they host kids overnight for several nights. So we have 10 kids, and the kids are anywhere between 5 to 17 years old. We get permission from their caregiver to go and pick them up and to bring them to the prison and to bring them to these host families who we've known many of them for many years. They spend the night with them. They bring them the next day, and between 9 and 3, this is several weekends over the year. And also in the summer, we do a summer program for about a week. And what happens is, from 9 to 3, they're engaged with their mother. They're having games, activities, food, treats. There's a playground that they're playing. They may be doing horticulture just for those times. The kids leave at 3, go spend the night with the host families and do activities. Then they come back the next day. So that's the way.
Okay, let me come in. Let me come in. You said something critical to the audience. You introduced a new terminology, host parents.
Sure.
That's something new. We have not, I haven't heard that before, how you actually get the children and give them to a host family. And I'm sure these families have been checked out. They're in your directory. And then the host family actually houses them. Now, do the host family get any money for doing that? Or is that just volunteer?
It is volunteer. And I have to tell you, when I first heard about this and heard about the organization, I was like, my God, people just giving of their time. Like, they are really wanting these parents to see their kids, and they open up their homes for kids that they don't know. And they are saying, I'm willing to host you for the weekend or for a week. In order
now let me bring my other co-hosts in, because see, this is some things that the church needs to do. They need to get involved with hosting children to see their parents that's incarcerated. What do you think about this, Minister T? Minister Trevor, what do you think about this concept?
Well, as being in education for 30 plus years, being administrative principal, all that is so important. It would make such a difference in a child's life. Not only that social piece, that educational piece, it would make such a difference in their lives, because many children bottle up and close up, and you don't know what's in their heart. You don't know what's going on. They only talk about certain things. Children don't really let you in. they don't really let you in. But if the social workers, sometimes the social workers, they are aware of that. Do you know how many hearts that we could touch? Do you know how many
Just
minds
by
we turn around? Do you know how
yes,
many people change? Do you know how much confidence that they will have in themselves and feel that they could do something and be something and let their dreams, whatever they were, start to flourish?
Yes.
because they're still connected. Dr. Gordon, what do you think about this? Now, she's doing this for the mothers. I know in your mind it's twirling around men, fathers, men. You heard me, Alethea, right? Men's fathers, men. But this would also work if you guys could get together for the men. Dr. Gordon, you're on mute.
I am in love with Dr. Taylor. We need to get married.
But your wife, you got a wife. Sorry, son.
Yeah. Well, wait a minute. Now we're from Africa, remember, and we we can have more than one, and it all depends on what the flavor is. But I strongly support what you're doing. It is a disruptor, and it is also a change agent. And we need to do that. Now, I'm a licensed clinical social worker, but I'm a psychotherapist and I'm a clinical consultant for several agencies. And what we do is to go into those agencies and form groups. And what we do is we have the groups actually form themselves, and then we become the facilitator and go with the flow. I think that my concept, which is the family equation, actually is the factors of the mother, the father, plus child equals family. And what
Right.
we find is that what you're talking about and what everyone's talking about here is the father is conspicuously absent. And then the fathers who are in the home, they need to have this type of awareness that they are part of the family and that they are significant. And so this is what I see happening. And I'm focusing on the boys, the black boys, because they need to be able to learn how to protect the black girls and their mothers and give respect to that woman who we need to lift up the highest, because
Amen.
they are our center. They're the center of our
Okay.
universe. Thank you.
Okay. Pastor Cherry, what do you think about host churches?
Um, I
Mm.
I believe that's a great idea and awareness, because
No, excuse me, not host churches. I put host churches, host houses.
I
I
I
wanted to
just
spread to the church. I
I
wanted
know
to go to the
Yeah.
church.
I
Yeah.
I know what you mean.
Churches involved.
I know what you mean. Or hosting the parents,
Absolutely.
as far as men as well as the women. Um, and like my brother just said, it's really about when you look at the family. It's a great what Dr. Taylor is doing, everything about for the women, but it's great when you can include the men in, because uh, uh, let the men in and as fathers, and it gives them the opportunity, to and awareness, to be a father and how to be supportive of a father and what assets they might have or need to help them to grow into being in a relationship with the children, with the kids, with the mothers and the children, so where they can learn how to operate. Because some men, you know, which is true, don't really know how to need help and guidance. They really don't
Hmm.
know how to be a father.
True.
Absolutely.
And a lot of them, we have to look at, because we men, they need help and support themselves because of
Hmm.
how they was bringing up, how they childhood was, and they might have been a child of
Amen.
something that growed up. You understand, that been that been through a lot of harsh things in their life, and no, maybe one parent, maybe no parents, some of them maybe could have been in foster care, whatever, and some of them could have been abused and misled and all kinds of different things. So it's like, it's like
Okay, Pastor, I'm gonna give you an offering. Okay, Pastor, I'm gonna give you an offering. You don't preach your sermon. Thank you. You and Dr. Garday, y'all preach your sermon about men. But now, before we even get that, because we are going to ask you, do you know any men organizations that are doing this? But before we even ask that, because we have an opportunity now, brothers, that we can start doing this for the men. So we got opportunities opening up through what we're doing now, so we can do more. Because I met an organization in Buffalo, and I think I shared this with you, Dr. Alethea, that they actually, when a child graduates, they set up the video so the parents that's incarcerated can see their children graduating.
Wow.
To be a part of their children graduating, to be right there hand in hand for those places they can't go. So that's another expansion of what we can do. So because that gives another element of communication with the child, because the child feels disengaged when they're not communicating with their parents. But now let's continue with the interview. This is a person is incarcerated, you're there, and they have to basically volunteer for your services. Is that right, Dr. Taylor?
Yes. So,
okay. Okay, do you have a lot of people who don't even volunteer because they don't see the need? And then once they're incarcerated, they see the work you do with the other women, they want to join in. So can they join at that point? You got the floor.
Are you saying, just to clarify, you're talking about the people who are incarcerated volunteering to participate in this program, or the host families?
The people that's incarcerated. See, a person is going into prison, to Rikers Island, and you have your staff there, and your staff begins to share information, and they say, listen, I don't want to hear it, I don't want to be bothered with it, and they continue to go. But then somewhere along the way, within the next 3 or 4 months, they meet somebody that has interfaced with your program. Can they still join?
At any time. So a woman, sometimes we have women, so let's take like Bedford Hills Correctional Facility. There, it's a maximum prison. So they're there for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. I have a mother who, for the first 10 years, she said that she was, her words, out to snacks, that she didn't care because she knew she was going to be in this for a long time. Then after 10 years, something changed, and she got really more involved in her kids, and she got more involved in the Our Children programs, and was able to really make a huge difference with the with ensuring that her kids were doing well and ensuring that she did well. She now has 2 degrees while she's been inside, and she's running a program while she's inside as well, and really doing creative things incarcerated. And so, yes, at any point, whether you're in the Rikers Island or you're in the prison, you can definitely join our visiting program. We've had in Rikers Island where we've had also caregivers who say, no, I'm never bringing my child to see their mother while they're incarcerated. Nobody told her to get incarcerated in the first place. And so we've had to talk to that father or that mother, grandmother, I should say, to say, hey, we would really love to be able to help Johnny see his mother, because John has seen his mother every day of his life for the last 3 years. And in the last 2 weeks, he has not seen her. How can we ensure that we make this happen? And so this is one of the things that we do consistently. And then we're always reaching out, always in the prison. And we do word of mouth, to your point. We have the women talk about that.
Now, what's your percentages? Say, for instance, 200 women go in today. Is your percentage 50% of the women will want the program, 60%, 40%? What is your percentage of the population, would you say?
That's a hard number to give. I would, on Rikers Island, it's a little easier. Out of the women, I think there's about 300 at the time we did this, about 350 women that are incarcerated, that are detained, because it's not a prison, it's a jail,
Yeah.
that are detained. And of those, we were serving about 138. But we also there are two organizations that are in Rikers. There's Osborne Association and Our Children. So we're both serving. So we're serving about 200 and odd women for visiting services and making sure that ACS come in. So I would say between both of us, we're doing probably about 60% of the population, because not every woman needs a service. Not every woman is a mother or have an ACS case. And then we're working with any woman that's also on the nursery as well. And in the prison, it's a lot more challenging for that number, I would say. So if I am to give some estimate, it would be about 40%, because not all the women that are incarcerated, I think they're about 600 to 700 now, are seeing us, because some of them have seen us before and they no longer are working with us. And then others are just coming on board. So we may be seeing about, let's say, 300 to 400 women on a, I would say, on a yearly basis for that, for the prison.
And not only, supposing we have women that go in and they are not as literate as they should be, because this new breed now have all this different type of education. This math is off the hook, the English and stuff. When we were in school, it was phonics. Now they're looking, well, what would you do? Do you tutor them, or do you have someone that can help them as well, so that they can help their children with the math, with the new math, the English, the algebra, all that stuff?
Well, we're serving primarily the women who are incarcerated. So what happens is that there are programs that are already in the Department of Corrections that's not necessarily run by the organization, Our Children. And so those women are working with those particular Department of Corrections and Community Supervision staff members. And those particular staff members are educators that they're doing their GED, adult basic education, and also colleges are inside the prison as well. So like, for example, Columbia University is doing a financial learning and sustainability course while they're incarcerated, and then they can get their BA and master's degree from other schools. So those programs are not necessarily Our Children's. Those programs are separate, but we coordinate and communicate.
Collaborate.
Seeing the same women all the time. Mm-hmm. And though, if there are issues and the women need it, we will figure out how to help them get tutoring services. Now, the kids, we have services in Long Island City. And so in Long Island City, when a woman comes out of Rikers or she comes out of Bedford Hills, we provide transitional and permanent housing. And so in that time, if she has a child, say, we have a woman now, she has a 7-year-old. That 7-year-old can go to our after school club. And in that after school club, yes, we will help them with the new math and preparing them for their tests and exams and so forth, because after school they come to us and we have teachers that are working with them. So that's where we really address the kids in Long Island City.
And you know what? I salute you, because, see, you're working on both sides. You are helping the kids and helping the parent as well for sustainability. And guess what? When they come out, they are better at being who they are. And that's a great thing. Now, I'm going to ask a question. I got to ask two questions. But the first question is, tell us about when a woman goes in that's expecting a baby. How does that work?
Sure. So when a woman goes in, she can apply to, sometimes they're put in the regular, so this is prison. So sometimes they're put in the regular population where they are with everyone else. And then they apply to go on the nursery. And not every woman is taken on the nursery. They do look at your offense. So if you have a child abuse or some other offense that's affecting children and arson, you more than likely may not go on the nursery. And so when you do go on the nursery, and so let me just give you a visual. There is regular population of women that are living together. And then there is a nursery that's a separate floor that has only women that have kids. And they have a like a center where they go and they'll sit with their kids. They have games. They have a television that they're watching with the children so that they have stimulating visual videos. They also have a small horticultural program. And then we have a nursing manager along with a doula services that were provided as well, and nursery education and lactation education as well. So we're providing all these services for those women. They're on the nursery and they stay for a year anywhere up to a year and 6 months, and they have to be approved to stay longer than a year. And they're living.
Now, let me cut in. Are you saying that the pregnant mother, after she gives birth to the child, can keep the child up to a year and a half?
Yes. The max.
Okay. The max is a year and a half. Okay. Now, this baby has to go into social services or has to go into a guardianship care. Do you guys help with that?
Absolutely. So in the past, we haven't had to do it in the last several years, but in the past, we've had moms come home. We've had babies come home to us, where we'll have staff members who will say, hey, I'm a foster mother and I will take this child and I will hold the child, but care for the child for several years. We had one mom that did it for 4 years, and the mother came home, and the mother and child is now being reunited. And so we've had that happen. The way that we were born is by nuns were raising kids that were of parents who were incarcerated. That's how this whole thing started with Sister Tisa and Sister Elaine Roulet. Sister Roulet said, hey, there's a mother that was going to go into prison, but her child can't go into the system. I need some nuns to help me raise the child. And this is how they got started. And so, yes, so we have that opportunity. We try our best to make sure the mother doesn't go into the system. So working with the Department of Corrections, we will look for guardianship or any other opportunities. I'm not saying that they're not kids that go into ACS, because that does happen. But from the beginning, we're working with that mom to say, hey, if you're not going home in a year or a year and a half, who can take the child? And let's figure out how to develop that relationship so that the child does not go into the ACS system, because that's not where we want our kids.
Okay, let's come in. I want the host to come in. Minister T, come on in. Dr. T, come on in. You have any question? I'm not you, Pastor. Not you. I'm talking about Minister T right now. Dr. T, come on in. Trevor.
Yeah. I did think about a question. If you had a child that was an older child, 13, 14, 15, they had been visiting mom, and all of a sudden something happened, that child became angry, and they said, I don't want to visit mom anymore. Have you had a situation like that?
Absolutely.
What do you guys do when things like that happen?
So we've had situations where the social worker that's a civilian that works inside the prison, she will talk with that child. So she has gone out of her way to go and see the child to say, hey, what is going on? Let's talk about what's going on with mom. Let's talk about what's going on with you. How can we make this relationship right? And even whatever months it takes to fix that, those are things that she's really working on with the child to make sure that the relationship bond happens. We've had situations where it wasn't necessarily that the child was angry with the mother, but the child was giving issues at home in New York City. And then she became homeless. She didn't have clothing and so forth. The staff rallied together. This is prior to me, but these are the stories that the mother, the child, and my staff have told me. They rallied together. They got her clothing. They found her a place to live. And they reestablished communication with the mom, who was very, very worried because she hadn't heard from her daughter, because the daughter was giving trouble outside. I mean, your mom is incarcerated. You don't have a stable living situation. It's a difficult thing. So our children has done over and over again to step in. Even the nun that was running the organization prior to me, I came on in January 31st of 2022. And that particular nun was also one that would step in and say, hey, I need to figure out how to help this child. Can we put this child up in our housing for a short time until we figure out a place that she should go? Those are the kinds of things that we do it. That's a wonderful thing, just a little bit more. That's a wonderful thing about us not being licensed by the Office of Alcohol Services or all these different places, because we get to operate the way that we want to. As long as we're operating legally for the children, in the interest of the children and the mother, we get to say, hey, we can take you in, we can have you live with us, and we can connect you with the right services that you need and still maintain a relationship with your family.
Okay, Dr. Gorday, you have a question. Dr. Gorday, unmute your phone.
Sorry, I want to know how is what is the volunteer process for people to come into your program, and what types of people do you admit? For instance, do you admit other people who have been incarcerated in the past, or have you had people who were struggling with their own issues and need some more help? Could you use those people, and could you treat them?
Sure. So all our clients are clients that are formerly incarcerated or directly impacted, justice impacted in some way. Like I'm justice impacted, but I've never been incarcerated. So we will help those women as well. They're not necessarily living in our housing because the housing is for formerly incarcerated women, but we have like a working women's program that will help them as well. However, the volunteers can be anyone. We do run a background check. If you have issues with kids in the past, then that would be the only thing that would stop us from doing that, because we are near a school, we serve kids. And so, and also we all know that sometimes because a person is on the list does not necessarily mean that they actually molested a child. It could have been a 16-year-old boy seeing a 16-year-old girl and got arrested and then now have discharged. So we understand that those things occur as an organization. So one of the things that we could do just quickly for the volunteer, we have a volunteer coordinator that the person can work within Long Island City, but through the Department of Corrections, we can help you become a volunteer there. They're formerly incarcerated people who are now volunteering where they used to be in prison.
Now, I got one more question. And that is,
that's going to cost you. That's going to cost you, Dr. Gorday. That's going to cost you. Go ahead.
All right, we will. All right. I hope it's only 50 cents. But listen, what about veterans? Do you have any female veterans that you work with? And that's one of my expertises as well, so I can offer some help.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not sure because it's not a number that we've collected. It's something that I can find out. If some of our women that are coming home were also vets. So no, I'm not that familiar with that particular population of women being a part of our group, but it's not necessarily a number that we track. But thank you for saying that, because that's something that I will talk with our program senior director about, because there are additional services. And if they do need help, we do connect them with the VA and other places. I haven't done that here because I'm not in the same role as I was in other places.
Okay, Pastor Terry, you have a question?
You say like I believe that it all started out like with nuns helping out the mother, with the children and stuff like that, and they did it for like about like the child can as they pregnant and they conceive, have the child, they can stay like for a year and a half with the mother. Now
when they're in prison.
Yeah, in prison, right? But after that year and a half, I mean, because like some of the mothers like that like when they come in, some of them like or like have to be like rehabilitated or drugs, or do they have like children that's affected with certain things, like drugs, AIDS, or whatever? Do they have people to come in and help these children, to be get them the help that they need?
Absolutely. So some of our children have, not children, some of our mothers have substance use and mental health issues. So we
Right.
do provide those services while they're incarcerated. That's provided through the Department of Corrections. And we have a social worker that can also meet with them to discuss their trauma. Now, when they're down here, we have social workers, we have licensed child therapists, along with rehabilitation counselors and our employment counselors, let's say, that's also working with them so that those needs are also met, and we're working with them on the trauma. The great thing about our children is that 30% of our population are also formerly incarcerated. So these are formerly incarcerated. Some of them are kids of women that were incarcerated, like our child care director. She is a woman of a mother who used to work with us and live with and still lives with us, who was incarcerated. She was a child of this person, and now she is a staff member and lives in our housing. So it's a really unique mix where people are living in our permanent housing that were formerly incarcerated, but they're also working for us. And they're also housing specialists and all these other positions. So the good thing is that you're really working with a person that understands your background.
Yes.
And so that child,
Yes, that's critical.
that child has lived experience because her mother was incarcerated. Now she's giving back to these children who are children of people who are incarcerated.
That look
That's
like
critical.
them.
That look like
Yeah, that's critical, because you know what? We don't need people working with our kids for sympathy.
Right.
Just because it's something to do. We want people who are working with our kids that care about our kids and have similar like experiences that our kids are sharing. We don't want people working with our kids that say, "Oh my God, your mom was in prison. Oh, well, let me help you, little poor thing." You know how they feel. Come on, let's tell the truth. Let's tell the truth. And they want to make our kids some project, some sympathy project. So at the end of the year, they can put it on their resume and say, this is what they did. We want people working with our kids that love our kids, that want to help our kids, and that won't turn their backs on our kids, because our kids are used to rejection. They're used to rejection.
And one of the things
they're used to rejection. Go ahead.
We educate Black and Brown communities as well about incarceration. Because sometimes we are the ones that will say at times, "Oh, you know what, you should call the police, you should do this, you should do that. They belong in jail." And we try to educate about what the life is like and the cycle for children that have incarcerated parents, but also that everybody that's incarcerated is not guilty of something. That there are people who have made mistakes as well, yes, but the rehabilitation is happening. And the way I went in, a lot of times, is not the way I came out. And I think those are the things that people forget, that the person that's serving 25 years does not usually come out the way they went in. And so the narrative of what we see on television, of what we hear in our politics, is something that we're really trying to help to assuage. And that's why when you did the Communities Not Cages piece, I was so happy to hear that, because that's a part of something that we're also engaged in, and going to Albany and have gone to Albany to make sure that people understand the importance of these sentencing laws, and how, you know, when you're on parole, it's so cumbersome to your life, and why changes need to happen. So
you know, when you're in this type of work, Dr. Taylor, war cry, you get engaged with, when you become a children's advocate. I'm an advocate for our children now, just by default of me being war cry for our children. So anything that affects our children, you can believe war cry is there, they're around, and they're in the center of. I'm an advocate for hashtag don't let them talk, which means that our children, our 16 and 17 years old children, are being brought in by police officers, and they are being read the Miranda laws. But guess what? Because of the pressure, they say, "Okay, I'll talk." No child, I don't care if a child does agree to talk, no child should talk without an advocate, a parent, or a lawyer there. period. So I am an advocate for that. I'm an advocate for our communities are not cages. See, the work that God has given us is to be the voice in the urban area. And I thank God for that. But before we even get off on war crime, I need to get some more information out of you. What happens when a parent gets locked up? How do you tell the child? Well, not when he gets not when he gets locked up, when he goes in. After a parent has these visitation rights and something happens in the correction facility and they have to go to a lockdown.
Oh, okay. You mean when the child is expected to do like a visit and then they can't see mom and dad? Yeah. We've had those conversations where we've had to say that the prison, you're not able, and it depends on the age of the child. So a younger child, you're telling them that you're not able to visit mom today because something has happened at where she lives, and so you can't come in, but we're going to keep in touch with you to let you know. An older child will probably be aware of what a lockdown is, and that's the one thing that we try to do is to be as honest. We ask the parents to really talk to your child about what incarceration is like, that the child does want to know what's going on with your daily work. Let me just give you one simple example. We do these things called coffee and conversations where we have people from the community come into Bedford Hills to meet with the moms and learn what it's like, what their lives are like and how they can also give back. And also it helps with funding and those kinds of things. In one of those conversations, the mother said it was so difficult to have a conversation with her child and she wasn't sure how to have it. And when she started having the conversation, the child said, "Mommy, are you sleeping on a bed or are you sleeping on a couch? Are you okay at night?" And she said she was so overwhelmed because she thought all this time he's going to ask her about her crime and all these other things. And really the child wanted to know, "Mom, are you okay?" And so telling them where you sleep, how you sleep, what a lockdown is, why you can't see me, what happened, not all the grime details, but those kinds of things, we encourage mothers to really share with their kids if they're old enough so that they understand the realities, because then they don't have this really this thing in their head where it's like, I don't know what my mother's doing on a daily basis, and then they kind of make it up. So now you're telling them what the reality is, and for them it helps to reduce the stigma. Maybe not people around them, but at least it helps them to reduce the stigma.
Okay, I have a question. This question is one that's probably on the minds of Dr. Patton here, is that when children are locked up and you're working with them, is the school informed? Does the school know that this is taking place? Does the social worker know that this child's parent is incarcerated and there could be some emotional trauma that this child could be dealing with because of the newness of this? Do you correspond or work with the school on this issue?
You know, it's unfortunate that does not happen that seamlessly the way that you're saying it. I wish it did. But the way that we do it is when the mother, that we make sure that the mother has a relationship with their child. So like the individual education plan, we ask the teachers and we get consent so that they can be a part of that meetings. We've had issues where we can't get the teachers to consent, the principal. So we'll go all the way to the superintendent if we have to make sure that they are engaged in the process. No, the social workers or people in school don't always know, because sometimes the guardians don't want them to know, and because they don't want them to be stigmatized. So that's always more education that we have to do to say, look, if John is not doing well in class, it could be because his mother just got incarcerated. It may be good for you to talk to the teacher about it. And so we will educate them on how they could do that. We'll also educate the parent on, you can call the school and talk to the teacher because you're still the parent. It's not like your parental rights are taken away. Sometimes they believe that their rights are completely stripped, and we make sure that they know that that's not true. And we help them, yes, while they're incarcerated, to continue to engage. But no, the parents, the schools are not always notified. And I'm always cautious about that too, because you want to know, you want to get a sense of how are you notifying, what are the different parameters, and who's doing the conversation with the kids. So I think there's nuances around that as well. But there are programs that gear to around kids that are having parents who are incarcerated, and some schools are really addressing that. It's not enough, though, to be honest.
No, because our kids, when they go to school, they're asked, "Where's your mom? Where's your dad? You know, why are you living with your grandmother? Why are you in foster care?" And a lot of the foster care homes, I realize they are foster care, but a lot of the foster care parents actually tell the kids to tell them that we are your guardians. But a lot of kids don't even want to say foster care because it shows a disconnect from their real families. So that's a trauma that they deal with. Now the other thing is the follow-up. Say everything is good, the parent is connected to the child, it's time for the parent to leave, the parent comes back into the mainstream. Now, how long do you do the follow-up with that particular person? Do you do a 6-month follow-up, a year follow-up? What do you do?
Well, the if a woman comes into our program, which many do, meaning that they come down to Long Island City and they live with us, then they're with us for as long as they want to be. So many of our women, there's no deadline that you stay a year, 2 years. You stay for as long as you need to be, and we help you with housing. We don't have and that's something that since I've been coming on that we're working on, looking at the impact of the prison and the jail, of all the women that we are serving, the ones that don't come back to our children itself in Long Island City. How do we follow and measure their success after they've left prison? That's not something I have to say that the organization has taken on at this time, but we did hire through the Robin Hood Foundation a impact assessment coordinator. So that particular associate, I should say, so that particular person is now going to help us to be able to figure out how to follow those numbers and how to work with the Department of Corrections to see if they're doing follow-up of people who are incarcerated. How do we utilize that number? So that's something that the organization is working on. However, everyone who comes to our program, we follow them for a very long time, at least 1 year, because they're in our programs themselves.
Now, couple of quick questions. How many people work for our children, your organization?
So right now we have, including vacancies, about 82 staff members. So we're not
to service how many facilities? To service how many facilities?
We have 2 prisons and 1 jail, so 3 prison facilities, and then we have houses and thrift stores and a food pantry and the mental health and our working women's program in Long Island City. So the facilities are 3.
Now let me speak back again to your thrift store. So when women come out, they get to visit your thrift store, they get to dress and pick out things to wear on job interviews. Where do you get your donations from? Because I'm sure some of our audience may want to donate stuff. Let's speak on that.
Absolutely. From people like you. We like gently used things that you can drop off at our location in Long Island City, and that's all on our website. We actually will take whatever the donations is, and then we evaluate them, and we'll sell some and we'll give to women as well. So we sell them to put back into the organization, but the women actually physically go into the store and get free things. But we don't only do clothing, we also do furniture. So if a woman is moving out, we have a relationship. I don't know if you're familiar with junk luggers.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a relationship with them. And a lot of times there are estate sales in all these places that they can't sell off whatever, so they give it away. And so we work with them where we have our manager goes there probably every other week to look what they have. And then we'll take out pieces to sell in our stores. But if a woman says, you know what, I don't have a desk for my child and I need one, we'll go to Junk Luggers or some other place, and then we'll look for what we need and we'll bring that and pick that up for them. We have vans and operations men and women who go and they get donations also all over the city as well.
Okay, we thank you for this opportunity that you came on War Cry. We're going to give each of our guests, our hosts, only a minute just to talk about what did they think about the impact of our children. Remember our new word, host houses. That's something we want to move into. We want to have more host houses. How many do you have? Just by the way, how many host houses do you have?
So the host families, we have about 30, and we need more. We don't have enough. So
Okay.
we're always looking for host families, predominantly who are living in the Westchester area, anywhere from about 30 to 40 minutes from Bedford Hills and Taconic Correctional Facilities.
And let me tell you, these host houses or host families, they embrace the children, and that becomes another piece of love. That's
Absolutely.
another piece of love and care for our children. All right, we got 1 minute. What did you think about our children, Minister T?
You calling on me?
No, no, not you, Pastor. Minister T, Minister Trevor. Trevor?
This is a wonderful program. I was not aware of it, but I'm glad that I am aware of it. And I'm going to get on the phone and tell a couple of people about this.
Please do.
Because this is the real work. This is the real work that people are doing, that are pulling their arms up and getting there. This is the real work. And this is the thing not only that you're doing, but the church needs to be involved with this. I think this is a wonderful program. And I just want to make one little comment about the school and the children not knowing. A lot of times the teachers, the administration do not know because the children don't want them to know.
Absolutely.
They don't want anybody to know that.
Absolutely.
And when they do know it and it finds out, children are mean. And things come out and children are mean. And then the administrators got to put her foot on it and stop it. But this is a wonderful program. And I will be taking my stuff down to you guys and dragging my little stuff down to you guys. I'm going to get the
instead of taking it to that bin, don't take it to the bin no more.
No, I'm not. My daughter has stuff here that she doesn't even wait. Disgusting. I'm going to take this stuff down here to y'all. I'm going to pack it tomorrow.
Please do.
Including your fur coat and all your African attire.
All right, let's not.
You said let's not go crazy.
I thank you so much. This is wonderful.
And she's a co-host. That's Dr. Patton. That's Minister T. We are happy to be here to find out. Okay, Dr. Eric Gorday, my main brother. What do you think about? I know it wasn't for men, but what do you think?
Hey, yes, it was for men because we came from you. All right, so don't forget that. All right, now, it's excellent. It's all this, but this is needed, Dr. Taylor. This is what we need to grow on. We need to have more organizations like this. You are overwhelmed, so now somehow we got to get to help you. Yes, I have some furniture. I got about 3 storage houses that I'm ready to get rid of.
All right. I'm ready.
Okay? They got a lot of stuff now. Okay, but
listen,
this is a blessing. This is spiritual. This comes from the heavens. And I just welcome you. I embrace you, and I want to help. So I need to know your address. Okay, I'll let my wife know too. All right, but I need to have know where I can come. Okay,
absolutely. A Taylor at ourchildren.org.
We'll put it in the chat. We'll put it in the chat. We'll put it in the chat. All right, Pastor. At you, Pastor Cherry.
Okay. I think this is marvelous. This is great. This is like beyond things that we need to have and we need to know. As far as the children, the women, and as we also talking about introducing the men, into things, and the men getting involved into things, also as well as the with this thrift shop, that I'm hearing at the end of this. This is great. And when they said the clothes and stuff, because I do a lot of ministry giving out clothes, and I have a lot of things with furniture and stuff. I just do a lot of ministry, with clothes, feeding, food, and stuff. So I would like also to, and I know Elder Montgomery said it'll be in the chat where we can get the information. And you will be hearing from me. And I too is one that would love to help. I think this is a great thing and a great start, you know. So
and I can also let you know doing it for men.
I applaud you. Huh?
What did you say? Dr. Taylor?
I can also let you know some of the things that are happening for men who are incarcerating around visiting their children.
Okay,
oh, that's what. Look, they shaking their head now. They shaking their head now. You know, this is so wonderful, and we are going to do everything we can to support you. We stand behind you. We're going to donate. We're going to do whatever we can. We've got somebody scheduled to come on from the Osborne. We had Fortune. So we are working.
Our partners.
You're part. That's right. We've got. Let me tell you something. It's about us. It's about us and getting the information out to our people. It's about helping everybody. But we have not been having this information in such a long time. True. So we didn't take advantage of it. But now we're going to take advantage of it. This is War Cry. It's the urban mouth for our children. Mm-hmm. It's the urban mouth. It's not the Huntsville wives of reality shows. It's not all these people on the O. It's what we need in the valley. See, we're valley people, and the valley people need help. Politicians are okay. I'm not worried about that, but I'm worried about my children. I'm worried about our kids. That's the generation that we got to say. Yeah. You can, Dr. Taylor.
I want to just thank you all so much also for having our children on, along with the work that you're doing, because the work that you're doing about, with crying out for kids, I think that a lot of times the voice of the kids gets stifled. And I'm so enamored of organizations always that continue to talk about Black and brown kids and their issues and their needs, and that the kids are being seen and who are growing up in poverty. And that's how I grew up. And I'm grateful to God for where he's brought me. And so I now do work that I can give back. And that's the same thing that you all are doing the work to give back, because some of the work are in our lives with our family members. And so we're doing the work professionally, and then we go home also and do the work. And it's a lot. So the other thing that I encourage is that while we're doing the work that we teach our own kids and we teach the staff, is that make sure that you take care of yourself. Because in the end, if we are not caring for us as people, then we're meaningless to anyone else. So thank you for the
self-care.
So glad that
self-care. Because we're involved with build more schools, not prisons. Right. Build more schools, not prisons. Build more schools, not prisons. Right. So we are involved with a lot of things, period, because we are the voice. Whether you want to hear it or not, it's War Cry. We thank you today. God bless you. God bless the works that you do. May the Lord face shine upon you. And guess what? You're a part of War Cry now.
Thank you.
You are a part of War Cry now, and you are an official War Cry staffer, because we're going to support you as you support our children. Absolutely. Thank you. This is War Cry. See you next week. Our next great program next week. Visit our website. Bye, everybody. Bye. Come on. War Cry. God bless. God bless. God bless. This is War Cry. We're on the wall crying out for our children, our communities, our schools, our churches, our families. This is War Cry. Welcome to our reality. Gun violence, Chicago, Philly, Detroit, New York, Atlanta, just to name a few. Our Black children are dying day by day. This is War Cry. Police brutality. Hands up! Don't move. I can't breathe. Hashtag Black Lives Matter. Hashtag All Lives Matter to Christ. This is War Cry. Drugs, rape, mass shootings, school violence. This is War Cry. Galvanizing people to pray for our children and to take action. Let's march on Washington. We want prayer back in you. This is War Cry. Candles, memorials in every corner in our neighborhood. Who died this weekend? Oh no! No, not Miss Martha's grandson. This is war cry. He was only 16. His brother died last year. He was only 13. This is war cry. We the people. We're the elected officials. This is war cry. We need the church. Where's the church? Only on Sundays. Get to the streets, church. We need you out there. This is war cry. Girl, be gone. Boy, be gone. Mothers crying. Fathers being locked up. Welcome to our reality. Identity crisis. This is war cry. Oh, they're trying to remove our history off the textbook. Oh, critical race theory? It makes them feel bad. It's our reality. Fake reality shows. We want the real truth. Stay woke. This is war cry. HBCUs under attack. This is war cry. Equal pay for what we do. We want a reparation. This is war cry. Ashes to ashes, dust to dust. Wait a minute. Is that somebody else they're burying that looks like us? Only 12. This is war cry. Oh, let us come together and pray for our young people, pray for our communities, pray for our schools, pray for our churches, pray that the government gives us what we need, a fair opportunity. This is war cry, home of the brave, land of the free. Who's free? Our men are locked up. This is war cry. Hashtag mothers against gang violence. Hashtag fathers who love their sons. Hashtag what would Jesus do? This is war cry.
I know who goes before me. I know who stays behind.